to the sea. Baby, I never say, for I will fall into the light. Every time I try to breathe, the wind will rise.
Yo, welcome to Coastal Connection. Me and Mike G have Jody Nolf on today. What's up, girl?
Woo! I'm excited.
That's it. Hey, we're here today. We're going to talk about English as a secondary language for foreign students or anybody that's just struggling to learn English as another language. Jody's a specialist, and it's called the ESOL program, and she specializes in it, and we really love it to death because she's going to break it down to us how some best business practices and some of the techniques that she uses to help. And then we're also going to talk about some of the developmental things that she's doing right now currently to help shape the battlefield to make it a little bit better for people to learn English. And with that being said, Jody, where are you from, what you doing, girl, and give us a little bit of background.
Hi, guys. I am a full-time ESOL coordinator. So what that means is I handle all compliance, but I also design and create professional development. I lead professional development for the staff in my school. I did not start out as an ESOL coordinator. Actually, I have over 20 years of experience. I was a high school and middle school English and reading teacher. So I'm a classroom teacher, just like many of you. I'm used to all different levels of readers and writers in my classrooms, not only ESOL students, but special ed students, struggling students, students who just need a little extra assistance. And so I always had a passion for languages, not only as an English teacher, but when I was in college, I studied abroad, and I studied Spanish all throughout middle school and high school. And I always just really had a passion for that. And so it was such a natural segue for me to take my passion for English learning, my passion for students, and to really combine that to create programs to help them succeed. And
Wow.
I'm in South Florida. I'm in a huge ESOL population, as many parts of the country are experiencing. We have an influx of many different students from different areas, and I'm in South Florida. I'm in Jupiter, Florida.
All right. So, the like right now, I hate to even touch on current events, but like even with Ukraine and the refugees flooding out, we may see a flux of them come to the United States eventually, because the last time there was different issues around the world, we have a high flux of Russian students that have come in. So, what are some of the challenges you think that the normal public school has these days? Before it was about Spanish and Spanish speaking students, but it's a little bit more complex than that now. And so there's a lot of different styles and techniques that you have to use. So as you've seen this evolution of the melting pot of America, or the dream is not just South America. What's your perspective on, how our approaches and how schools now kind of have to embrace, to being able to teach English at different levels?
That's a great question. Something that everyone needs to understand is that not all English learners are the same, because you have some who come from a lot of education where they really only need to learn the language because they have all the background knowledge in their first language. However, the main population in my school, they come from very traumatic experiences where they do not have the access to education. It's not that they don't want the schooling. They don't have the access or the opportunity to attend school for various reasons. And so they come not only with the language that they need to learn, but they also have the basic concepts that they need to learn, especially, for example, like in math.
Wow.
When you were talking about Russian students, as many of you know, a few months ago, we had an influx of Afghani refugees. Not really in my area, but something that all children, no matter where they're from, can deal with is the trauma. So you might say, well, my students are from Russia, or my students are Afghani. My students, many of them come from Guatemala. Many of them are coming from trauma-based experiences. And that is something that educators need to embrace and understand, that it is so much more than language. Many of these students are coming from very, very large challenges. Trauma-induced learning and education is something that educators really need to be trained in. It's not easy. I'm not saying that it's something that we just do overnight, but the pathway needs to be not only with scaffolds and learning of content area and language, it needs to be obviously the social and emotional part of that as well.
So the question is, do you find it as complicated because of their emotional turbulence, mental turbulence, and stuff like that?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Because, we have to remember that these are still children, that they have very grown-up experiences, unfortunately. Some are really horrific, yet they are still children. And I teach secondary. I mean, I'm middle and high school, but these are still 11 and 12, 13, 14, 15-year-old children. Some are coming to this country unaccompanied. So you have the extra layer of them being alone. And some people say, well, but they're living with family. They're living with family that they don't know.
Correct.
And it could even be a parent that they really have never met because the parents have come here earlier. We have some parents, they've been here 9, 10 years and are really just meeting their children now. And so you have to think about what that shock can do to a child just coming into this country, needing to be embraced and needing to be loved. And so it is a challenge for educators on top of everything that we deal with anyway, the COVID experience and the testing and everything else. We really have children who need us, families who need us desperately.
So from the backgrounds that they come from, do you think that it builds them to being strong characters? I mean, it's a negative thing they come from, but is it turn into a positive thing, or do some veer off? I mean, I'm pretty sure it's a whole other world. Some make it, some don't.
Well, we call that asset-based learning, where yes, it does make them resilient. It might not be that they are resilient, for example, in school. Well, they're not doing their work, or well, they're not trying, but that is just one environment that they need to acclimate to. But let's look at their resilience in just coming here. I mean, we had someone who was an educator in our district, and he would share his story about how he came here at 15 completely alone, and he came by way of the trains. He rode on top of the trains. If that's not resilience, I really don't know what is. And so we need to focus on those assets, what I call superpowers. I've done some webinars on these things, but we need to find out their superpowers and embrace them and use that to springboard their learning. And I think it's definitely doable through just really getting to know our students, which we talk about all the time, just really forming that relationship with them. And they will respond, because these children need a lot of love.
Oh, wow. You're on point. The one thing that I realize is that even after war-torn Africa in the 90s, a lot of students came here. So you've been teaching for a while. So here's the thing is, how's the evolution of teaching of secondary language for foreign students? How's it come to them learning English? Because I remember I had a lot of friends that came from Africa that were in the school system, and they were in middle school when they got here, but they were coming from war-torn countries because at that point, President Clinton kind of opened it up so people could flood in for the refugees. So the question I have now is that we really didn't have a system. I guess we did have a system in place, but I don't think it's as fluid as it is now. So can you walk us through the evolution that you've seen in ESOL?
Absolutely. When I first started, I always like to share this story because I'm an educator like so many of us are. There's nothing really special about what I do. But what I learned was there really wasn't anything out there for secondary. And so I did what so many other educators do when I needed to learn how to really create professional development and help my content teachers. I would Google everything. Okay, let me go to a YouTube video like so many other teachers. There was nothing out there. And so I said, okay, I'm tired of looking. I'm getting lazy. I'll just do it myself. So I started making my own videos, and that's how it really all developed until someone came to me and said, Jody, when it comes to secondary, you're really it. I mean,
Wow.
So when you're talking about the evolution has really gone into the content areas. It's not just, okay, children come here when they're 5 and we're going to teach them the alphabet. Those children, those language learners, those multilingual learners who start when they're 5, it's a little bit more of a level playing field because they're all learning how to read at 5.
Right.
Whereas now the evolution is we're having children come at 13 with 2nd grade education. We're having them come at 14 alone. How are we going to teach them algebra when they're just starting school now? So I think that is where the evolution is going. I'm not saying that it never existed, but I'm saying as far as education and what is really being focused on, it's every age of child now. Now you can find a ton of secondary resources, and I'm so glad about that. I'm so excited about that because a lot of people are saying, I just got a new student last week with very little English. How am I going to teach him geometry? And so now there are places to go because people are realizing that children are coming at all ages and these families need help. It's not just about language anymore, and I really don't think it ever was. But I think that was kind of the misconception that, you know what, we'll just give them a dictionary and they'll look at the words and they'll translate and that's how it's going to work. Yeah. That's not how it works. So this is me making a video, one of my videos with a 7th grade science teacher. And she has been very helpful. We just started making videos together. I said, can we model something so we can teach other teachers? Because as a teacher, I firmly believe we always set the tone in the classroom, just like the principal sets the mission for the school. So we are the leaders in our classrooms. So for me, personally, it starts with the teacher. Yes, I work with children also, but I need to reach that teacher to say, this is how you welcome that child in. This is where you start. This is what you have on your walls. This is what you do the second they walk in, where you say, oh my gosh, I'm in the middle of the lesson and somebody just brought a new kid into my classroom. What am I going to do? I'm literally teaching kids right now. This is what you do. So by reaching the teachers, my goal is to kind of change that environment in that classroom so that not only is the student relaxed, but more importantly, the teacher needs to be relaxed because whatever that teacher exudes will translate to the classroom and that new child.
Oh, awesome. Hey, so let me ask you a question. Mike had your website up and I see you designed it. And so honestly, I actually did some research and there wasn't a lot of stuff out there on the different websites to get this, get training on ESOL. It's interesting but I like the way you set it up and the way that you had the videos and the way that people can actually hit the storyboards to kind of get some insight. So what really made you decide, okay, because you're a teacher, what made you decide, hey, you know what, this is what I'm going to build and I'm going to make this collaborative site so people can use it. So what made you do it?
I have to credit another EL person who had said to me, when it comes to secondary, it's you. And this was a couple of years ago. And she said, you need to have a house for all this stuff. She said, Jody, you have so much to share with the world. And I have to say, I was surprised. I thought I've only been doing this a couple of years. Like I'm really new to creating PD. This has not always been my history. I mean, of course, I've created lesson plans and given it out to my students. But as far as doing things for teachers, I never even thought about it. And she said, you need to share this because people need this stuff. And I said, really? I thought I just wasn't able to find it. And she said, no, it's not out there. That's why you haven't found it because it's not there. So if you create a website for teachers, it's for teachers. For example, on the website, I have a link for PD because I've had teachers reach out to me and say, or reach out on a social media site and say, my principal wants me to lead a PD for my school. I don't even know where to start. So they've reached out to me and said, I need to lead a PD. What do I do? And so I asked the questions. Is it for just your ESOL team or is it for your whole staff? How much time? Because to me, that's a big factor. Did your principal say, you got 10 minutes, go? Or this is going to be a whole day on you. Figure it out. So I've made different lengths of time for PD so that teachers can say, I have a 90-minute but tomorrow I have a 60-minute, or one school says they have a 30-minute. So I design it according to time frame also, because look, nobody has time for anything anymore. So we have to work within the time frame as well. So I really try to make it user friendly, so a teacher can say, I'm going to present this to my staff, and here are the resources. I know the time frame. I know how long it should take. And so I can get it all together. And so I wanted to do that for them.
Oh, yeah, it's a great site. Well, you said time. There's a lot of time because Mike G goes to the gym like 4 a.m, and then he runs like 10 miles, and then he comes in the shop.
He's mirroring his own complexion. He does that.
So here's the thing: is what was your biggest challenge when you started this years ago, and when you started it and you stood back? Because I am sure you had some moments that there were some challenges that burn in your mind because you evolved this program. So when you first started, what was some of the major challenges that you faced that you literally went, oh well, we won't do that again?
Well, it's really interesting. The biggest challenges have been from the mindset of staff. And it's not to sound critical. This is the nature of the business. You're going to get pushback, as I'm sure both of you understand. Change is very hard, and especially as we get older and with the limited resources that educators had. So when I came on into this position, I always say I was either really idealistic or really naive or just really stupid, because I said, I want to do this and I want to do this and I'm going to do, and my team was like, you're going to do what? You're going to
Hey, Jody, hold up now. Anytime you go to teachers and you go, hey, I'm going to take a little bit of your time. Do you mind? You are going to see a different side of people.
well, yeah. And so, I had this idea of taking the 8th graders, mainly newcomers, to our local community college. I was like, let's go on a tour. And the teachers went, you're going to what? These kids have to get into high school and you're jumping over 4 years of high school to get them to college? That's not the priority. And I said, yeah, but this is a roundabout way to motivate them differently. If they could see what they can achieve later on, then maybe they'll start turning their homework in and showing up for class and really get excited about high school. Again, I'm brand new. I'm idealistic. I'm going to change the world and make everything wonderful. And so I got this grant and I thought, oh my God, I have to plan a field trip. I've never even done a field trip before. We had parents on board. We had buy-in from families saying, we are going to take your children off campus. We had to get the money together. I secured a Title III grant for a bus. I had to secure Spanish-speaking staff at the college. I gave them 2 criteria at the college. I said, it has to be hands-on and it has to be in Spanish. Whatever else you want, go for it. Run with it. And so we partnered with them. And now 5 years later, we're spreading it to other schools in our district.
Wow, so you're visionary.
Regarding the challenges, it's the making change happen. But I have to say, now my team is equally, if not more excited about it than I am, because now the kids know, the 7th graders are saying, I can't wait to go on the trip as an 8th grader. And they get from the parents and the kids, they come back from the trip and they're saying, that was amazing. Oh my gosh, I can maybe even go to college and become an engineer. And so when we talk about these asset-based learning techniques, we learn, wow, these kids are really, really good in math. These kids love science, but they just needed the exposure and the tapping into what they can do and what they can achieve. And now it's a reality. And actually our very first cohort, they are graduating high school this year. And so I'm going to see how many are going on to college. And so it's just, it's been an amazing dream that's becoming a reality. And again, it just started with an idea of, let me try to motivate kids in a different way. It wasn't so much of, I want all these kids to go to college. It's, yeah, we do need to get them to high school, but they're not motivated because they don't even know what they can achieve. So let's show them what they can achieve. And it's been amazing. But yeah, there's a lot of pushback with staff, which is not out of the ordinary. I can't fault them for that at all.
So the pushback is, do they not want to put the extra effort into it, do you think? Or is it just taking up their time? What do you think?
I think it's a lot of things. It's the fact that teaching diverse learners is challenging. Okay. I'm not going to sugarcoat it and say, oh, it's a really easy thing. It's you're working with families where there is a language barrier, where there is a cultural barrier, and no matter how much cultural sensitivity training we all get, myself included, there's always more things to learn. And it's a lot more challenging to reach out to families that are struggling in so many other ways. For example, during COVID, the barrier was not only language, it was the digital divide. It's getting Wi-Fi in their house. And then it's, okay, so you have Wi-Fi. Okay, great. But
you don't know how to use it.
It's not a quiet space for them to work. They are caring for their siblings. They are doubled up in their families in a multi-family household where you want them to go onto Google Classroom and log into a Google Meet and stream this video that you have in your Google Classroom. Their Wi-Fi can't handle it when they have 3 other siblings who are also doing homework. And so it's not unique to multilingual learners, but it does add an extra layer that teachers have to really get creative to say, how am I going to get around this? Now, I think it's a little bit easier because some teachers are going back to standard methods of paper, which I happen to like. Let the child take paper home, but some are not. Some are using Google Classroom, and that is totally their prerogative, but it does create a challenge. We're not in those homes to see exactly what is going on. So the pushback
because parents.
And some of it is fear on the side of the families. We did actually have a parent say, we had Wi-Fi in the house, because that is one of our standard questions. Ma'am, do you have Wi-Fi in your house? Do you have good internet in your house? And we had a family say we had it, but we took it out because they were on YouTube and we couldn't monitor what they were doing. And this was a multilingual learner family. And they said, we got rid of the Wi-Fi. And so it's okay, now we have to find another way to reach you.
So they couldn't monitor their own children's Wi-Fi. Look at that.
Not, you know what? Not when they're leaving for work at 7 a.m, working 2-3 jobs.
Gotcha.
And as a parent myself, I can't, it's life. You can only monitor so much. So I feel for these families. I really do. I always say I'm a mom too. I totally get it. Even though I might not understand everything about your culture or what you're saying, we both speak mom. I totally get. And then they start laughing because they know, they're like, she gets it. She knows, she understands my job as a parent.
Yeah, I guess this is, we can stay here and talk about this all the time because when COVID, your mic's on. When COVID hit, it was interesting because you're right. They gave these kids his laptop. They gave these kids his program, and they didn't know what the hell they were doing. They didn't have no Wi-Fi. I seen a kid doing homework at a gas station.
Yep.
It was crazy. So I was like, we're doing something wrong here. We're letting everybody in, but we're not educating them the same. Because if I'm correct, I don't think America's the brightest. I don't think our educational system is as sharp. Am I right, Vince? I don't know. I mean, I'm not a teacher, but the last time I read, education is like, because the homework. Why would you give kids homework to take home? You already got 8 hours already. I don't know. I'm just getting into the conversation. I don't know. It's just that, these kids are learning another language, but yet you're still putting them on like they know the language or they know what's going on. It's just weird. And I see that happen.
I completely understand your point. Mm-hmm. Education in other countries, in some other countries, is vastly different. for example, in Guatemala, where most of my students are from, they get free education until 6th grade. And once 6th grade is what they call their cycles, their 6th cycle, and then it becomes privatized. And, you know, I said, this is just like American families. I can't afford to send my kids to private school. And so many of them, they stop their education. And I think the misconception is, well, they just want their kids to work, or we need them at home to care for their siblings. We don't want them to go to school. These families really, really want the best for their children, and they want their children to be educated and to be successful and to learn English. And just like any other, you know, parent anywhere around the world, they want what's best for their children. But the fact of the matter is, past 6th grade, they have to pay for it.
Right.
And so it makes things very difficult. And just like we welcome in all kids to education in this country, I think it's a great thing. Other countries are not, their children and young adults are not so fortunate. If they don't attain a certain score, they are not admitted to government funded educational programs. And so you always have to wonder, okay, well, what's going to happen to all of these people who can't get into the government funded education? When I lived in Spain, we're talking many, many, many years ago, they were all studying. They were so stressed out about their college entrance because they said, if I don't get a top score, I'm not going to be able to go to school anywhere because the government is only going to fund the top, you know, the best and the brightest.
That's true.
And that's what I think is so great about our country, that we have these opportunities for everyone. You know, we really, really do. Even for our undocumented and for our impoverished, it might not be perfect. It certainly needs improvement, but the fact that we offer it and that they have a safe place to go. I've always said schools are some of the safest places, especially whenever there's a big trauma that hits our country, and there have been many. I always say school is a safe place. You are loved here. And being practical, you'll be fed here. You'll have a roof over your head here. You will be loved and you'll be safe.
No, it's a good point. And to go back to Mike's point, that I think the challenge is that we realized after COVID, it kind of showed our weaknesses. Mm-hmm. And so we are learning exactly what our weaknesses are. And you know what? Sometimes you got to get hit in the mouth to really say, oh, you know what? That budget I cut, we actually needed that money where it needed to be. So I think a lot of school districts have had to do some resoul searching, had to go back and actually really know where they're at on technology, because even though they had systems, they realized the systems were outdated on laptops. Then when you're giving them to students that English is not their primary language, and they've never probably had technology, especially coming from Latin and South America in some regions, they see it on TV if they have a TV. Mm-hmm. Some of them may have never seen a laptop or a tablet physically unless they're walking past a store. So the first time now here you're in America, boom, here's a tablet. And I think in a lot of ways we have to assume, hey, I got people in their 50s and 40s can't use a tablet and they grew up here. So, you know, we have to kind of step back sometimes and before we judge. And I said, look, man, I got 50-year-old people who don't know where the button on the side of the tablet is to turn it on. So to assume that someone comes from a foreign country, that everybody has this knowledge, it's ludicrous at times. And I think we've had to do some soul searching, Jody, overall as a nation when it comes to education, but not only just normal education, but education of people that are from foreign countries that attend our schools.
I think that communities as a whole have really, hopefully, looked in the mirror and said, we need to work on our infrastructure. When we have Wi-Fi, you know, we have Wi-Fi deserts. You know, why isn't Wi-Fi just available everywhere at this point? You know, it's really, to me, it's a shame, because it is something that is such bang for the buck to invest in infrastructure so that all homes are connected. Why is it that poorer families and people who, you know, do not live in the most affluent areas, and even some of the people who do, I live in a pretty affluent area, yet we still have many
dead spots. I got one in my driveway. I literally drive in my driveway and it's like, whoop, black zone.
And and there's no, Wi-Fi or infrastructure. And I think that needs to change. Definitely.
Oh yeah. And you know what? We will hopefully we'll get there. And Jody, hey, we're out of time today. And hey, you were a rock star, as me and Mike always say. We love having you. And hey, I really appreciate you coming on. Mikey, you got anything, baby?
You got me going early. I was just trying to, express myself. I'm not a teacher, but I do read the news. I read. It's like, this is crazy. I come off a boat. You give me a laptop. You want me to get A's. Just makes no way,
Oh, he has a teenager. That's why.
Yeah, and that's why we have to invest in our teachers. We have to invest in teacher retention, teacher training, so that we can better teach our kids. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. No, this is so fun. I love doing stuff like this.
Hey, so
it's
we
been
appreciate,
awesome.
Yeah, exactly. We appreciate you coming on, and I'll definitely be talking to you again. So as me and Mike always say, Jody, keep it rolling.